What are koans? In the Zen school of Rinzai, the use of koans, often a paradoxical statement, is often used to initiate the internal Socratic method in the students to break down prior deeply held notions that hold them back from enlightenment. The Tibetan Larim, the Tibetan monastic style of teaching, is known as the graduated path that is near identical to the Socratic method of teaching. Mondo, a Chinese word that means dialogue between student and teacher, is the same meaning as Larim, as it is the Socratic method of teaching, a progressive teaching style. In a progressive method of teaching, it is the goal of the teacher to get the student to teach themselves, as is what the Socratic method does. Socrates was the greatest philosopher of them all. His teachings and methods spread like wildfire throughout all of the ancient world, even into the Indo-Aryan regions where Buddhism and Zen were eventually developed. Time and culture has clearly had its influence on the varieties of Socratic methods of teaching, though the fundamental core of the method has not changed. The criticism of Zen koans, and sometimes rightly so, is that it is intellectual sophistry designed to bring the student to a predetermined conclusion. Sophistry, meaning a clever deception, is often found in politics, advertisement, and popular religious paths of the faiths and good deeds. In the path of wisdom, sophistry is meaning false wisdom, and is often detected because the conclusions are inherently false or subjective by nature. Statement: this apple tastes terrible. Sophistry: it's only because you just like the price of the apple. Sophistry is detected in that it clearly changes the subject and blames or flatters the statement or the one making it. The koan construct. 1. The statement or paradox. 2. The critical question. 3. The revised statement. 4. Repeat 2 and 3 till enlightenment. In the graduated path of learning, the student, once understanding the method, then self-initiates it in all things. In a religious context, the koan is a method to break through ignorance, delusions, and deeply self-held notions that are just not so. 2 monks were arguing about the temple flag waving in the wind. One said, the flag moves. The other said, the wind moves. They argued back and forth but could not agree. Hennang, the 6th patriarch, said, "Gentlemen, it is not the flag that moves. It is not the wind that moves. It is your mind that moves." The 2 monks were struck with awe. The Zen schools of North and South China greatly disagreed with each other about the path of Zen. The Northern school said that spiritual awakening is a slow path through serene meditation, whereas the Southern school said that awakening is a fast path through koan work. In Japan, the Southern school is known as Rinzai, and was considered heretical when it was founded in Japan, and its temples burnt and monks killed. However, after a time, the Rinzai school eventually took hold in Japan, and no longer are its temples burnt or the monks murdered. Buddhist temples, for the most part, are where the wealthy nobles and merchants sent their children for education, even up to the mid-1900s. Students were well versed in what we in the West call classical education. That is, to critically think, debate, and think independently. All of this prior to koan work or serene meditation. Without the proper prerequisites, would be likened to one entering a boxing match with a prize fighter without any training or instruction. Would only be one result: disaster. Linji, also known as Rinzai in Japanese, was a critical Zenist around 800 CE. At that time, Linji was extremely critical of the state of decadence on Chan. In a sense, he was the original dark Zenist of his time. Linji introduced a reformed Chan that took on an immediacy of Enlightenment teaching that used the Socratic methodology, meditation, and koans. As often, religious philosophy and its methods are introduced as is from the origination. Over time, this origination import grows stale, decadent, and corrupt, and this leads to a revolt that ushers in a reformation of the religious philosophy and methods that reflects the current culture. This is how lineages are branched and sects are created. You can see the branching all throughout the Christian churches, and it's just the same in the Buddhist and Zen churches too. The koan, meditation, and mondo is the foundation of Zen methodology. For one without the other would be like a cart missing a wheel, only able to go in circles to nowhere. It is the position of the Zen teacher to guide and instruct the student along the Zen path. However, what is a Zen teacher to do with a student who comes ill-prepared? This seems to be the predicament in the West, where students are poorly educated, minds filled with fantasy and nonsense, and willfully ignorant to the point that they don't think they have to learn or unlearn anything at all. Quote, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water." Unquote. The prerequisites, koans and mondo, all work together to bring the student to the point of spiritual awakening, where all delusions, fantasies, and prior held notions are laid down for the final time. Thus, all those things prior to the awakening will still be done after awakening, though the awareness of the reality of those things is known, and the delusions, fantasies, and false notions that once thought as concrete and real are now just a fading memory.